Do you have any idea how big the gap is between the average person, a millionaire, and a billionaire? Most people think they understand, but in reality, it's not even close. We live in a big, amazing world full of contrasts and differences. There are colossal, snow-capped mountains and underwater trenches sunk in gloom. There are animals too small for our eyesight and some too big to crush us like ants. Do we mean by this that the differences between the wealth of certain people is, for example, comparable to an ant next to a whale? Did you know that some people have more money than some entire countries, and that some of them could even pay the foreign debt of some nations? If all of the world's billionaires made up a country, it would be the 8th richest in the world, surpassed only by economic titans such as China, Italy, Japan, or the United States, and, unlike what is often said, these people are not 1% of the population. In reality, they would be 0.0001% of the world's population, and yet they have overwhelming power and influence in the world. Join us on this journey to the secret nation of the United Billionaires. Maybe some of you don't think so, but wealth is extremely difficult to measure. Yes, we get it. Maybe it may seem absurd to you. After all, it is quite easy to differentiate a standard car from a Rolls-Royce or a Lamborghini, and Jeff Bezos' mansion must be very different from suburban homes or average apartments. It's true. Still, wealth is extremely difficult to measure. It may seem absurd, but we will talk about such stratospheric figures, people who sometimes do not know how much wealth they actually own, and cases where the distances separating one from another are huge, not only between billionaires and ordinary people, sometimes from one wealthy person to another. Ready for a lot of figures, comparisons, and a string of familiar names and faces? We are. Let's get started. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and give it a thumbs up before we begin. The study of billionaires as we know it today began in 1981 in the United States with the birth of Forbes 400 magazine, whose first edition was published in September 1982. It is estimated that by 1987, there were an estimated 140 billionaires in the world and a total fortune of $300 billion. 42 years later, in 2019, the number of billionaires had risen to about 2,153 people, and the total fortune of all amounted to an estimated $8.7 trillion. The rise of these billionaires dates back to the so-called Gilded Age at the end of the 19th century, where the growth of millionaires and the stature of Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, and Andrew Carnegie took place. Wealth has always been difficult to measure and compare. In ancient times, wealth was never too far removed from political and military power. Examples of this were countless kings and emperors of antiquity, such as French Alan Rufus, William I of England, or the legendary Mansa Musa, ruler of the Malayan Empire. These figures were so wealthy that their wealth would surpass even that of many of today's richest people. In fact, estimates say that Mansa Musa's wealth could amount to some $400 billion, fortune greater than those of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk combined, which would make him the richest ruler of all time. The chronicles say that in his pilgrimage to Mecca, he was accompanied by 60,000 people, 12,000 slaves dressed in silk clothes and gold scepters, in addition to between 80 and 100 camels, each loaded with about 130 kilos of gold, between 10,400 and 13,000 kilograms in total. Along the way, they distributed generous alms among the poor and gave away so much gold that it devalued and caused an inflation of more than 10 years. Mind-boggling, simply mind-boggling. Maybe after this you are wondering, where does the wealth come from? In the particular case of the Emperor of Mali, his incredible fortune came from his lands, servants, and gold mines, 3 of the largest deposits of the African continent in his domain. Wealth can come in many forms, but broadly speaking, it generally arises from the creation of a means or system that either facilitates the life of others or becomes indispensable to it and enriches, by extension, others. This is what happened during the so-called Gilded Age with entrepreneurs like Andrew Carnegie or Cornelius Vanderbilt, as well as during the discovery of America or the heyday of the Roman Empire. The lofty positions and wealth of billionaires are generally due to the fact that their position and actions favor a majority, or at least, in certain cases, facilitate the living conditions and growth of other people. Take, for example, Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He was a strong leader, an able general, and a born administrator. His leadership provided enormous stability to the empire and the provinces. Time magazine valued his potential Augustan fortune at over 4.6 trillion, and he considered himself the owner of all of Egypt. Another example of the same was Cornelius Vanderbilt's railroad empire that linked the entire country with some 200,000 miles of track, encouraging trade and a business boom that allowed many to become wealthy and prosper. The U.S. economy became more continental, and today, the internet, social media, and fast-paced communication technologies are the new trains linking the entire world. Facebook, the world's most popular social networking platform, has more users than any other social network, and its creator is one of the richest people in the world. Amazon dominates the digital commerce market in the world, bringing buyers and sellers together with ease, and its founder was the richest person in the world in 2019. These technological advances have brought invaluable advantages to our lives, such as ease of communication, massive exchange of information, or connections that make our lives easier and allow many to get rich or, at the very least, prosper. Millionaires become wealthy as they grow and gain visibility for their work. It is thanks to this that public figures such as Lionel Messi, Michael Jordan, or Oprah Winfrey can earn a lot with just their image. In our inner selves, many of us believe that if we buy products associated with these public figures, we will be as special as they are. Any up-and-coming sports product developer might, for example, find the opportunity to promote their products using the image of high-performance athletes or public figures such as those just mentioned valuable. This process of improvement in living conditions or quality of life is the explanation for the accelerated growth of certain countries such as China, which eliminated extreme poverty, or how the emerging economy in India lifted millions out of poverty and created multimillionaires en masse. Wealth produces more wealth, among other reasons, because of the psychological effect it has on the wealthy. The wealthy generally have a serenity, the result of having their needs covered, which allows them to invest more in the long term, and their image, experience, and connections make others interested in them when investing and doing business. This is always the case, although not always in the best of ways, as in the case of millionaires who climb the ladder through corruption, political collusion, usufruct of a nation's natural resources, or the creation of weapons and terror. At the end of the day, these people enrich others but hurt many more. The term Gilded Age was coined by Mark Twain ironically to refer to how 1 million people were in need while a handful were getting rich beyond measure. This is what makes our feelings about billionaires so ambivalent and complicated. Carnegie thought that to die with your wealth was to die in disgrace, and the fruit of this is his legacy in the world in the Carnegie Institutes and libraries. Millionaires of the modern world collaborate with progress by financing the construction of public works or the fight against lethal diseases. Even here, there is ambivalence. Some welcome billionaires like Elon Musk's contribution to public and social progress, while others believe that these are problems that should be addressed by society itself and not delegated to others. Whatever the current outlook, everything is changing. The emergence of Bitcoin and crypto assets, as well as increasingly innovative technologies, changes the current picture and changes our world more and more. What do you think about this? And what parameters do you think will determine wealth in the future? We invite you to weigh in the comments. We'll be ready to answer. Thanks for watching. See you next time.